Hello, welcome back to LFP Farm Life. Today we're going to do a lovely poppy seed bread with lemon curd. I've already got our milk out. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a couple of eggs, and I've got some farm fresh eggs from our girls outside. And we're going to use some whole eggs. And we're going to whisk that together until it's completely combined. And our girls free range, so that's why their yolks are quite dark. And then we're going to go ahead and add a half a cup of oil. The recipe actually calls for canola oil or a seed oil. I don't keep that in the house, so I've opted for some olive oil. So we're going to add that to the mixture here. But pretty much you want some light flavored oil, so whatever you have in the house will work out just fine. We want to go ahead and mix that so that it's really well combined into the mixture. And the next thing we're going to want to add is our vanilla extract. And that's going to be a teaspoon. And I normally don't measure our vanilla, so I just add that by heart. So let me toss that in. We're going to call that a teaspoon. And we're also going to add in our sugar, which is 3/4 of a cup. So let me grab that. Should be able to get that in my measuring cup. 2 and 3. And I am using Azure's cane sugar. You can use your granulated sugar, you can use your raw sugar, whatever you have at home is perfectly acceptable. It's your recipe, you do whatever pleases you. We want to go ahead and mix this up really well. You know, I'm quite surprised they did not put the sugar in with their flour on this recipe. You know, and we're not putting this in a stand mixer to, you know, cream in the oil with the butter, but, you know, it's a little bit different. But we're going to get this all mixed together, and that seems to be fairly well incorporated. And now that we've got all the wet ingredients done, let's go ahead and in our batter bowl, we're going to add our flour. So I've got that all measured out, so let's get that in. And I'm going to go ahead and link the recipe below for you. So we've got our flour in. We just need to add our flour, our baking powder, our salt, and our poppy seeds. So let me grab that. So in our poppy seeds, we just need a couple of tablespoons. Baking powder, we're going to need 3/4 of a teaspoon. And salt, we're going to need a half of a teaspoon. And I'm just going to go ahead and give this a quick mix. And I just want to get our poppy seeds well dispersed through our flour so that they're not in a big clump whenever we go to mix everything together. And what I really like about quick breads is it's something that you can really throw together rather quickly, and you have a really nice dessert. Either like a nice breakfast cake or a quick dessert or a nice quick lunch, something like that. And then I forgot to put in our lemon zest in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and add it right into our dry ingredients. And I'm going to use our microplaner. And if you don't have a microplaner, you can go ahead and use a regular vegetable peeler and peel off your zest. And you just want to take off the yellow part and don't go deep enough into this white part here of your peel. And then just take a paring knife or a nice sharp knife and just dice it nice and fine. Or if you have a box grater, that will work too, and then just go ahead and dice it as fine as you can, because what you're looking to do is just get a real fine zest right there. And the recipe calls for a teaspoon, I'm just gonna go ahead and zest this entire lemon, and then you can either, even though the recipe doesn't call for it, you can add the lemon juice in if you want it a little bit more lemony, because we are going to use some of the lemon curd that we had canned up together a little bit earlier in the month, or actually that might have been last month already. And it will just add a little bit more flavor. But actually what I am going to do is I'm going to take our little naked lemon and add it to my lemons in the refrigerator for my lemon water. We got that all mixed in, and then we're just going to go ahead and we're going to add our wet ingredients in with our dry ingredients. And I want to make sure that we're not supposed to whisk it, we're just supposed to use the spatula. Yep, just stir until blended. Make sure I get all of this off the bottom here. And I'm just pretty much folding this in until it's well mixed, but you don't want to overmix your quick breads because you don't want to activate your gluten. You just want to mix it well enough that it's not lumpy, and she's mixing in pretty quick and easy. Just going to make sure that I have all of my lumps nice and smooth in here, that everything is nice and dispersed. Just want to double check that we're going to do half of this batter in our pre-prepped bowl or pre-prepped pan. So I have a 9x5 that I have lined with parchment, and I have also used some baking spray. So we want to make sure that this quick bread is going to release, because based on this batter, it is quite a runny batter. So I'm going to assume this is quite a moist bread. This is my first time making the poppy seed bread with lemon curd. So we're going to put approximately 3/4 of our batter into a prepared bread pan. And then we're going to pop open our lemon curd that we prepared in another video. And I'll link that video up here if you would like to see how we can that. And by having our canned lemon curd, it makes this type of recipe so very quick and easy, because this took literally what, 10 minutes to put together. So let me pop this open, and we're going to use approximately a 1/2 cup or so of lemon curd. I absolutely just love lemon curd, and look at how wonderful this lemon curd turned out. And I think we did this last month, and look at how nice and solid it is. And we did have some left over. I think in my video I said I was going to show you what it looked like after it's set up in the refrigerator. I don't think I ever came back and showed you. That's because we ate it. So, but this is what it looks like all set up, and it was absolutely delicious. It's a little bit sweeter than what I normally make my lemon curd as, but because it's a canning recipe, I do believe it needed a little bit more sugar in order to be canning safe. And you can see how nice and rich and lush this is. So I am just going to drizzle this in. And I'm just going to eyeball how much I want to add. If you would like to measure out exactly a half a cup, you go right ahead. I am not going to be quite that persnickety. And then I'm going to top this off with our batter. And I can see that our batter is getting a bit stiffer now that it's had time to absorb that flour and hydrate it a bit. So that's quite nice. And I just want to get all this batter out of all of the nooks and crannies here. It's an absolutely beautiful batter with the black poppy seeds. And this beautiful bright lemon colored batter is beautiful. It's such a gorgeous contrast, especially in spring here. Now that we've got beautiful weather, it's just screaming out there that it's ready for some spring. I hope the baby chicks are not too distracting for you all. I'm sure you can hear them chirping all around us, and you're going to hear that fairly frequently from this point forward, because you're hearing our new English Orpingtons just chirping away, and Les is out there busting his badukas out there, building some new breeding areas in their new living quarters, but they're a bit too young to go out into the world yet. And I do believe I need to add a little bit more before I swirl. Let me double check. And just to note, and as you can see, let me make sure that you can see, because the instructions do say that your remaining batter is not going to cover your curd completely. And as you can see, I do have curd that does show. We're going to add a little bit more curd on top. And I'm not going to put a whole bunch more of curd on mine because I've got a fair bit in the middle here. So I'm just going to toss a little tiny bit in the middle here. There we go. And we're going to make a little bit of a swirl pattern so that we've got some lemon curd going all the way through our quick bread. And a little bit of a marble pattern. And I am absolutely horrible at marbling anything. So it may not be the prettiest marble you've ever seen, but we'll give it a whirl. So this is what we've got before she goes in. So now she's prepped and ready to go in. So how quick and easy was that? By making our lemon curd and canning it, we have our bread ready in what? 15 minutes, even with a little fancy smancy curl or marble. And we can pop her in the oven. And what we're going to put her in at, she needs to bake for about 50 minutes. And then it needs to cool completely for 10 more minutes. And it's going to bake at, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this in. And I'm going to bring you back when we take it out of the oven. Okay, we have our scones already mixed up, and I have put a little bit of flour down on the bench. So I'm going to just flink our scones out so that we can go ahead and add our currants in. We could have also have added our currants while we were mixing them up, but I am going to add mine while we are just doing this final stage here. I just want to make sure that we get all of the dough out. And currants are similar to raisins. They just have a slightly different flavor. And I'm going to take my bench scraper and I'm going to cut my dough in half. And then I'm going to stack it on top of my other layer of my scone, and then I'm going to press it back down, and that is what will help create some more flaky layers in our scones. It's sort of like when you laminate your puff pastries and you fold your layers together to create different layers of that puff pastry. we're kind of doing the same sort of thing here. And by adding the currants to the outside and all the different layers, you've got your currants throughout everything without over mixing your dough. All right, and now we're just going to reshape our dough a little bit here, because we want it in a round shape, but we don't want to over handle it. And if we see any runaway currants, we're just gonna smush them into a bare currant spot. And when you flour your bench, you don't want to flour it too heavy, because otherwise that will dry out your scone. So you want it just enough that you can move your dough around without too much. So your hands will be a little bit sticky, but not too bad. And make sure that you shift your dough around so that you're not sticking it to your counter. And then we're going to cut our circle in half. And the interior is going to be a bit stickier than the exterior, because that does not have any of the flour to it. And you can, if you don't have a bench scraper, you can go ahead and use a knife. But as you can see, that does stick a bit more than what your bench scraper does. But if you don't have those tools, you can always use your kitchen knife. And then you take that half and you cut it in half once again so that you have quarters. And you take your quarters and then you cut them into little wedges so that you have your traditional scone wedges. And then I am just going to move this out of the way and bring our tray over. And put our scone onto our baking tray. And I will have this recipe linked below. And our oven has been preheated to that 400 degrees, and we're going to take our leftover cream and egg mixture, and we're going to put this on the top so that it is nice and shiny. But you do not want to put this on the sides at all, because what's going to happen if you do that is you're going to seal the sides of your scone and it will not puff up. So you're going to stop all those lovely layers that you just created by stacking that. You're going to prevent it from puffing up and getting it as flaky as it could. And by creating that nice hot oven of preheating at 400 degrees, all that hard work that you just did by prepping this dough is going to be for naught. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and pop this in our oven. And scones do not need to go in very long. We're going to bake this for 15 minutes. And I'll bring you right back after we have this out of the oven.